Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we are looking at a Charizard Braixen deck, which has gone and won a tournament in Japan the very first day it was legal. Not the first time a Tag Team GX has gone and done that. I have openly on this channel questioned whether it's as good as Reshiram and Charizard. It's going to take a lot longer for us to actually get a satisfactory answer to that particular question. Is it a good, viable deck? Oh my goodness, yes. Now, to remind ourselves what it actually does, the main attack here for 4 energy, free fire and a colorless, does 180 damage, and then you get to search your deck for any free cards and put them in your hand. Which means that you are going to have what you want for next turn. Now, sure, your opponent can always drop something like a Judge, and if they do, they do. But they've only got so many Judges in their deck. If your opponent doesn't drop something like a Judge, and they won't have one every turn, then it means that next turn you've got literally whatever you want. You're losing a little bit of damage over your Reshiram and Charizard, but you're making sure that you've always got what you want for next turn. People play stuff like Macago so they can search for one card in their deck. People don't play Steven's Advice because it ends their turn, but they really wish they could. Ladies and gentlemen, or Steven's Resolve as it was translated over here. Steven's Advice in Japan. The point is, this guarantees you've got what you want for next turn. That gives you a phenomenal advantage. So in a minute, when we're talking about the trainer cards, bear in mind, you are always going to have the trainer cards you want the following turn. As for the 180 damage, it's fine. It will get a whole bunch of stuff like Rayquaza and Blacephalon, but there are going to be times you're resigning yourself to 2-hit KOing, while having everything you need for the following turn. Bearing in mind, a Reshiram and Charizard isn't going to one-hit KO you with 270 HP. A Pikachu and Zekrom isn't going to one-hit KO you with 270 HP. Yes, I know Reshiram and Charizard's GX attack can do it, but that's once per game. And that really is largely the deck here. Hitting for 180, searching for any free cards. It's got a fairly useful GX attack. You get to get 5 energy cards out of your discard pile, attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like, which is fine. I mean, it's literally Zero Aura's GX attack, and that's not seen a huge amount of play. I mean, with cards like Welder, spoiler alert, we're clearly playing multiple Welder, and Kiawe, spoiler alert, we're clearly playing Kiawe, you often don't need to use your GX attack to accelerate the energy here. Now, if you get a second energy on there, you do get Burn and Confusion onto the defending Pokemon, which is a handy bonus, but it's not a GX attack we're hugely excited about. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, we do have a couple other attackers here. We have a non-GX attacker in the shape of the Turtonator from Dragon Majesty. And we see this as a one-off in a whole bunch of fire decks. You put free fire energy on there. You can discard as many fire energy as you like from your Pokemon, doing 50 damage for each one you discarded. So, especially after a GX attack of Charizard and Braixen, this is particularly good, but between Kiawe and Welder and everything else, you should have a bunch of energy on there. It's nice to be able to take a KO with a non-GX, especially if you've got 6-7 energy on the field and you're against a bunch of weaker Pokemon. This could be kinda cool. And we've got a GX attacker in the form of Heatran. Heatran GX doesn't see a huge amount of play, if I'm honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. It's not one we see cropping up in a whole bunch of decks. Now, it's not actually coming out over here to Unified Minds. It's not out yet, but it's alright. When it moves from your bench to your active, you may move any number of fire energy over to this Pokemon. Basically, it's like Xerneas Prism Star, in terms of the ability, any road. And then you get to do 130, which is fine. It's all right. It's not terrible. It'll get a whole bunch of stuff like Buzzwole and other non-GXs, Zapdos. But really, I think this is in here for the GX attack. Because I've already told you that the GX attack on Charizard and Braixen is extremely underwhelming. Here, it does 50 damage for each fire energy attached to this Pokemon. Weirdly, this is Lurantis' GX attack. They are just cobbling other Pokemon together for this one, but it kind of works. The ability makes it way better than Lurantis, also the fact that it's a basic. And obviously Lurantis is grass energy, this is fire. Come on, that doesn't need to be said. And the point here is this gives you a big smash at one point during the game as a GX attack, especially to take your final prize, or a key tag team GX KO. We've got Dedenne GX and Tapu Lele GX. They just get you rolling. They're just really nice in terms of, well, getting you going in the early game. Though do watch out for Pikachu and Zekrom because you're not playing Mew, and either of them can be KO'd on the bench by the residual damage from Pikachu and Zekrom's GX attack. Now, in terms of energy, we're playing a whole bunch of fire energy. That probably shouldn't surprise you if I'm honest with you. But we're also playing one copy of Weak Guard energy. It's a colourless energy that removes your weakness. And given that the attack cost for Charizard and Braixen is fire, 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 colourless, that actually works out quite nicely here. Takes away your water weakness, which could be key against some decks. Now, in terms of the trainer cards, we got a whole bunch of fire tricks. We've got Kiawe to get a whole bunch of energy on. Only a couple of those because it's really a turn 1 thing given that it ends your turn, but it does accelerate 4 energy. Welder lets you attach 2 energy, fire energy, from your hand to one of your Pokemon and then draw 3 cards. It's absolutely ridiculously, brilliantly, wonderfully great. We're playing 4, and if we could play more, we absolutely would. We then have Heat Factory Prism Star, lets us discard a fire energy from our hand and draw 3. It's a one of in every fire deck, it's amazing. And a couple copies of Giant Furnace, it's Viridian Forest, except you get to search for 2 fire energy rather than 1 any energy. So that's the fire tricks. We got a whole bunch of other stuff here as well. We got a full 4 copies of Cherish Ball here. Lets you search for any GX. It's a given in a deck like this. And then only 3 copies of Ultra Ball because Cherish Ball is doing most of the work. We've got a couple copies of Switch. Make sure we got the right Pokemon in the active. We've got a copy of Field Blower to get rid of our opponent's tools and stadiums. Speaking of stadiums, I've told you 2 of them. We're also playing Power Plant here. Turns off the abilities of EX and GX Pokemon. Now, you do have 3 GXs with abilities, Tapu Lele, Dedenne, and Heatran. Just be careful when you play this. And we got 1 copy of Pal Pad to get our supporters back, and 1 copy of Choice Band, which we might expect. But there's a bunch of trickier cards here, because as I've said, Charizard and Braixen lets you search for any free cards, so you can be a little bit more tricksy in what you're grabbing. There are 2 copies of Tag Switch. Tag Switch moves your energy, 2 of them, from a tag team Pokemon to another Pokemon. So you can move the energy off while your opponent's 2-hit KOing you, which the vast majority of the time they're going to have to do so. You can move the energy off to a different Pokemon getting ready to go in the future. It's pretty awesome. We've got 1 copy of Max Potion to fully heal, works really nicely after a tag switch. We do actually have a copy of Fire Crystal here. That's pretty good, just grabs your fire energy out of the discard. Could have mentioned it when we talked about the fire tricks, but we didn't. We've then got 3 copies of Custom Catcher. Lets you draw until you got 3 cards in hand, and if you play 2 at the same time, it's an automatic gusting. Clearly 4 here is what we would expect, because then that's 2 gusts during the game. Why do we only play 3? It's generally just a one-time deal, allowing for 1 to be prized. But remember, you also draw until you got 3 cards in hand when you play it, so it's definitely not a wasted card when you play 3 of them. We've then got 2 copies of Reset Stamp. Your opponent shuffles a hand into their deck, draws a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. Really good for slowing your opponent down after a fast start. We've got 1 copy of U-Turn Board that reduces retreat cost by 1. Really nice for getting stuff like Dedenne or Tapu Lele out of the active without wasting an energy. And then we've got a copy of Jesse and James. Now, this has actually been confirmed as coming out in Hidden Fates outside of Japan. And, well, basically both players discard 2 cards from their hand. Except you're better set up to do so, because you're the one playing it. You know it's happening. I've got a feeling that Jesse and James is going to be at the center of some really big hand disruption decks. Here, that is not the case at all. but it's a cheeky little discarding too. And you can reuse it with Palpad. You know it's coming, your opponent doesn't. We then got 2 copies of Guzma, which both switches and gusts your opponent's Pokemon off the bench. That's a little bit more standard. You don't really see any decks without Guzma in. Oh yeah, and 1 copy of Great Catcher. Discard 2 cards from your hand, grab an EX or GX from your opponent's bench into the active. And 1 copy of Ace Roller. 1 Ace Roller is pretty standard in Tag Team GX decks. You're giving up free prizes, so the chance to pick one up before it's KO'd is pretty gosh darn huge. There's a lot of little tricks in this deck, a lot of 1s and 2-ofs, stuff like Custom Catcher, Tag Switch, Reset Stamp, although 1 Reset Stamp is standard in pretty much every deck, and I'm assuming that 1 Great Catcher is going to become standard. And the reason you can get away with it so well, ladies and gentlemen, is because you're searching for free. You're losing a bunch of damage to play Charizard and Braixen, but I think searching for free may well end up proving worth it in the end. Either way, it won on the very first weekend it was eligible for tournament play, so I think it's one we're going to have to take moderately seriously. But I'd like to know what you think about it, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.